Greetings! I'm Tantus Naravan Dracovin, Lord and Emperor of the Dracovin Empire, and welcome! It's time to continue our talk about making a character in 5th edition Dungeons & Dragons. So today I'm going to talk about a lot of the details your character is going to add, and that's going to move into the background, which is another big choice that you're going to have for your character. So let's start out with a bunch of these choices. So the first thing you're going to do is, of course, choose a name for your character. Now each race has examples of names, so you could choose one of these examples, or you could make up something similar. It's up to you. There's also a lot of online resources, or there's actually some apps you could find that would allow you to come up with fantasy names. After you choose your name, you choose your character's sex. Are you male? Are you female? Thing is, I've played both male and female characters. You can do that. Nowhere in the rules does it say you have to play your own gender. And choosing a character of the opposite sex than you can sort of open this world of what you're trying to do when you're role-playing. Because that's what it is. You're trying to enter into a role. You're trying to think like another character, like your character would. And that can give you some options about thinking a different way. It actually can be very interesting to try to think about how someone else of a different gender, age, race, kind of things like that would just think. Because how would an elf think? How would a dwarf think? How would I as a female dwarf think? How would I as a male dwarf think? These are the sort of things that make role-playing very interesting. So once you've chosen your sex, you choose a couple other things. First you choose your height and your weight. Now there are charts in the book which give general area of height and weight, the average middle ground. And they give rules for you can roll some dice, figure out what it is, or you could choose something within that average to be what your character represents. And it depends on how custom, how random you want to be. Then you'd also choose your eye color, your hair color, your skin color, and your age. These are, again, all things that help define your character. Now, once you've chosen all these important things, you have to choose your character's alignment. Your alignment represents sort of the ideals of your character, what you sort of go to. I can explain a little better when I explain each of the alignments. There are 9 of them. They range from good to evil and lawful to chaotic. So make this grid of 9 with neutrals in the middle of them. So lawful good. These are paladins and gold dragons. They're people that stay with the law, that are righteous, that believe in the order and society, and are often people that are exponents of ideals. They're the righteous, holier-than-thou types, but they don't need to push it on you. It just depends on how you want to play your character if you're lawful good. Now, neutral good is a lot of the celestials, like the angels and stuff. Those are people that do the right thing for the right purpose. They don't care if you're going against the laws, if you're staying with the laws. They just look to help other people when they have an opportunity to. They're just good people. Now, chaotic good are copper dragons and unicorns and that sort of thing. That's sort of the Robin Hood type character. He does the right thing, and he does it without any care that it kind of breaks any kind of laws. He's up for freedom. Freedom in doing the right thing. That's what you have to kind of think of when you're being chaotic good, is you want to do the right thing, but you also believe in this freedom of expression for everything. So a very tyrannical government would most likely have someone chaotic good as their antithesis, because they would look to break things down and free the people and do the right thing. Now, lawful neutral, that is oftentimes monks. Lawful neutral either follow the law or code of conduct, something like that. They're not really thinking in terms of good or evil and helping people or harming people. They're thinking of just sticking with their code of conduct, their code of honor, whatever laws of the land are. Now, true neutral, that's druids and many humans, they just go with the flow. That's really what true neutral is. You don't really expound any kind of moralism in any direction. You just believe in existing in society and living with it. On the end of druids, they just sort of believe in the order of nature. So it's like the concepts of good and evil, of law and chaos, don't really matter to them so much as nature itself does. That's the druid. But the same sort of attitude of not really believing in one of the ends goes to many humans because they're just neutral. Now, chaotic neutrals, a lot of bards and rogues, they believe in personal freedom. They kind of go on their own whims. They believe in themselves most of all. Doesn't mean you're not going to help out a friend and all, but maybe circumstances get really bad. You might decide not to help out your friend if you think you're going to get killed for doing it. It's that sort of thing. It's your personal freedom, that you're, just wandering out in the world is what is most important. Now, lawful evil is the bureaucrat. Devils are lawful evil. They will stay within sort of an code of honor or law, but they try to get everything they want, they desire. So the evil politician who bankrupts an orphanage to get all these extra money and to use the land to build a whole new castle for themselves, that's the kind of thing that you'd be if you're lawful evil. A little horrible and kind of scummy, but you're not really doing it outside whatever the code of law or code of order within the land you're living in. Now, neutral evil are like the drow. the Dark Elves. They're mostly neutral evil. They believe in getting away with whatever they want to do, whenever they want to do it, with no compassion for anybody. They just do horrible things for the sake of horrible things. They're not cared about destroying the law, destroying order. They just are cruel. They just are kind of jerks. They're just cruel, malicious, just doing evil for evil's sake most often. And the last one is chaotic evil. Chaotic evil is demons and red dragon. They're greedy. They believe in arbitrary violence just for the sake of violence. Greed just for the sake of greed. Hatred just for the sake of hatred. They're really terrible. And they fill into this gap of like the most horrible of creatures tend to be chaotic evil, though all the evils can have pretty bad villains. So next I'm going to talk about languages. This is what you speak in the game, of course. Now your race, your class, and your background will tell you how many languages you end up with. There's a standard list of languages for all the main humanoids. You're going to probably choose from that. Now, if your campaign has some kind of common language that your GM will tell you about, you'd have that option. Because there's also a list of exotic language. So some exotic language that might be common to your campaign is an option for your basic character. You can take any exotic language that you want to take, but it has to be with your GM's approval. Meaning if I want to take this language down here in the exotic list, I'd have to ask my GM if I want to, if it's not common to my campaign. Now this also includes some secret languages. You can take secret languages like Druidic or Thieves' Cant, but you have to do it with your GM's permission because you have to have some kind of reason for learning it. Now some of the languages actually count as a language group, meaning that they're one main language and there's some dialects between them that they can communicate with each other, but they sound sort of different. It's like the English we speak here in North America and the English that's spoken in Britain. They sound very different, they have sort of different little things there, but you can communicate with each other because it's essentially the same language. Now let's begin to talk about the things that come around with background. First thing I'm going to talk about is personal characteristics. These are characteristics you choose for your character from certain lists, and traditionally they give them in your background, but you can come up with ones on your own with your GM's approval. You'd talk with him, you'd work out if you want to do some kind of custom, but I'm going to talk about it as if you're choosing them from your background. So first, you're going to choose 2 personality traits. These are interesting facts or characteristics about your character which come out often. And your background, of course, gives a list of personality traits that fit with that background, but you can come up with any on your own. It's up to you what personality traits you choose from. You just have to look them up or come up with one with your GM. After that, it's ideals. Ideal is another one, of course, listed in the backgrounds. Your ideal drives your character. It's sort of the goal in mind of what kind of person you want to become. So it's, if you're trying to act within your ideal, you're trying to become this type of character. Then you choose some bond. You have bonds, people, places, or organizations, or things that help define your character, that you're bonded with this, you're connected with it. Then there's flaws. Flaws are, of course, negative personality traits. They're vices, fears, just bad things about yourself which causes problems. Now I'm going to note something very important because it has to do with these personal characteristics. You get inspiration based upon how you play up to them. If you're playing up to your personal characteristics, your DM, your Dungeon Master, can award you with inspiration. Inspiration is a point that you can either save or spend whenever. You can have multiple inspiration, but when you spend it on an attack, save, ability check, you get advantage. That's what inspiration gives you. It's this point that you can be like, I've got inspiration because I've been working towards my ideal, and now I think I need advantage for this role. I'm going to use my inspiration. The thing is, in certain circumstances, you're actually allowed to give inspiration to another one of your teammates, to another player. If he's doing something that you think is very important towards the story, towards role-playing, that affects the game, you can hand off your inspiration to them. So if you're doing very well, acting up to your ideals, to your personal characteristics, and he isn't, even though he's doing very well role-playing, you can share the inspiration with him. Now let's talk about what a background actually gives you. We've talked about the personal characteristics side of it, but backgrounds give a whole bunch of other things. The first thing that backgrounds give are skill and tool proficiency. Your background will list any kind of skills or tools that you're proficient with for having the background. It will list languages if you're proficient with a language. It will list equipment. It may give you some equipment based upon the background you've chosen. Now the backgrounds listed in the book aren't set in stone. You can do things and customize them. You can sort of combine abilities there. Also, all backgrounds give a little ability which doesn't really affect major things, but it could be little minor things like you can go to certain inns for free because you're famous in certain regions, stuff like that. Little traits that are interesting, that drive the role-playing aspect of your character rather than the mechanical dice rolling set of your character. That's sort of the 2 sides of character creation, is dice rolling and role-playing. Speaking and rolling the dice, and it's sort of a balance between them is where you have to get the best character. Now the backgrounds listed in the book, which I'll go over next time, they aren't set in stone. You could change them up at your DM's approval. You basically talk with your DM, discuss things that maybe you want to take a personal characteristic of another background, or maybe your version of this background has a different skill and you can explain why very well. You're just not taking something. If you come up with a very good version of your own background as to why you might have a skill, a language, proficiency in a tool, a piece of equipment, your DM will approve you just fine, and you can change that. So you can have this customization of your background as is needed to you, or you could keep it simple and just take the one from the book. It's completely up to you. Anyway, that's it for today. We finished talking about a lot of these important things to do with building your character. Next time, as I said, we're going to go over all the backgrounds you can choose from and give you a little bit of information about them. So if you have any questions about this or anything to do with 5th edition, just leave it in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like, please subscribe. We're always looking for more citizens of the Empire. And until the next time, I bid you farewell.